answer is fairly straightforward. If CPA Ontario is no longer a member of CPA Canada, CPA Ontario's CPAs are not individual members of CPA Canada.
This was the most shocking moment to me during the information session when CPA Canada's board chair, Richard Alford, said that Ontario and Quebec CPAs will no longer be part of CPA Canada starting 2025. You must have heard the announcement that CPA Ontario and Quebec Order want to separate from CPA Canada. There's been a lot of speculation on what caused this, so CPA Canada hosted an information session where they discussed the reasons for the separation. Here are the key takeaways and what it means for the current and future CPAs. First, this is going to happen. Listen to this.
By CPA Ontario and CPA Quebec leaving CPA Canada, CPAs in these regions are no longer a member of CPA Canada.
Shortly, yes. Becky, that's a great question. And unfortunately, yes, that's true. In the current context with the withdrawing provinces, though, at the end of the 18-month period, which is in December of 2024, those members will no longer be members of CPA Canada.
So this is happening. Starting 2025, if you're in Ontario or Quebec, you unfortunately can't say you're a member of CPA Canada anymore. You have to identify yourself as CPA of Ontario, CPA of Quebec, or you put CPA and then your province in brackets. We don't know at this point, it'll be worked out in the next year. You can still move around the provinces and practice in different cities, but this may create friction at the international level. Here's CPA Canada's comment on it.
The internal Canadian Free Trade Agreement guarantees mobility, freedom of mobility. We've all seen challenges with different professions. Currently, there is absolutely mobility of the accounting profession. And I'm just going to extend that a little bit to say it's a little less certain with respect to international mobility and how those agreements will move forward in the future. And that's really important to give our young people these opportunities that are global in nature, as well as to attract new talent into Canada that's qualified so that they can work productively in their chosen profession right away.
According to this comment, if you want to move internationally to US, Australia, UK, and so on, you may have trouble transferring your designation to the other countries. If we look at MRA agreements, these are actually signed by the provinces, not at the national level. So my take on it is that you should be able to transfer internationally. I'm not sure why Ms. Steer made that comment. Maybe the agreements will change, or maybe she made a mistake. Next is sharing of the resources. Think of all the resources that CPA Canada owns and develops. Guidance on the standards, NOSHA, publications, exam materials. All of this is owned and developed by CPA Canada. Once Ontario and Quebec separate, CPA Canada can choose to license the materials to them, or Ontario and Quebec will develop their own materials. In fact, CPA Canada put on their website that they are concerned that CPA Ontario won't be able to build their own program in time, and this may impact the students. So potentially we may have a situation where Ontario has its own set of exams, Quebec has its own set of exams, and the rest of Canada has its own set of exams. This can be a huge problem because we won't be able to ensure the exams are fair and all CPAs are equally qualified. This reminds me of early 2000s when we had CA, CMA, and CGA designations and they all had different exams. The situation was that CAs had the hardest exam, which was called the UFI back then, so a lot of CAs were upset when the union happened. They argued that the CA brand was getting devalued. I'm concerned that we may face a similar situation here. Next impact is membership fees and profitability. I have good news and bad news. Good news for Ontario and Quebec is that your membership fees will go down because a big part of it goes to CPA Canada. The bad news for the rest of us is that everybody else in Canada may be paying more. If you look at the latest CPA Canada financial statements, which are available at CPA Canada's website, you will see that they incurred a substantial loss this year. Now, I'm not going to audit CPA Canada and try to figure out where this loss came from. That's not my job. But I noticed they spent a substantial amount of money on the educational component, more than what they earned. These substantial costs are likely coming from the new certification program CPA Canada is developing, but my concern is this. Once Ontario and Quebec separate, how can CPA Canada afford to continue its operations? Ontario and Quebec are a huge part of its membership income, so when they separate, CPA Canada will need to find another way to fund its operations. So my take on it is they'll either increase the membership fees from other provinces through restructuring and layoffs, or potentially find another source of revenue. Overall, I'm deeply concerned about this change and what it means for the CPA community. I'll be posting more content as I get more information. Thank you for watching.